So the next thing we want to take a look at is collecting information from the user and then using that in some way. So right now we're going to just create a simple form that asks for the first name, the last name, an email address, and a gender, and there'll be radio buttons to select male or female. And there'll be a simple submit button and a clear button. All of this will be wrapped inside of a form, an HTML5 form. And when they click submit, it will do, or it'll send this information where the form tells it to send. So sometimes we'll send it to a database or something like that. Right now, we're just going to send it to another page called results. And that results page will have just a simple table, and it'll lay that information out in a table. So again, we're collecting information. Once we click submit, the action that the form specifies will be invoked, which is basically send it to results.jsp, and results.jsp will just have a table. So we're going to see if we can get that going right now. So I'm going to create a new dynamic web project, and I'm going to call it simple form. Default location is fine, Apache Tomcat, everything looks good there. And under web content, the first thing that I need is I'm going to just do JSP files for both. Index.jsp. And index.jsp is going to be where the form is that the user will fill out. So I'm going to add some detail in here. And I've set the title page to simple form demo. I'll give it an H1 of the same name. And then I'm going to use, let's see, we'll use a form. So that'll be the first thing that we put in here. And that form will have some arguments, and one of them will be the name. And the name is just how we identify this form. Right now, I'm going to call it very non-specific, my form. Notice we're using camel case. Starts with a small letter and subsequent words are capitalized. So that's just a way to identify this individual form. It's going to need an action, and that action is going to be send it to results.jsp. And the form is going to need a method, and the method is going to be post. So I've created a form now. Inside of the form is where I'm going to collect my information. I'm going to collect my information in a table. It just makes it a little bit neater and cleaner. And I'm not going to use table headers or table footers, but I will use a table body. And this is just a simple HTML table. And I'll have a table row. And inside of the table row, I'll have a couple of columns. In the first column, I'll list what information I want to collect. And in the second column, I'll put an input box. And the input box needs to know its type, and it's going to just be text. The input box needs a name that uniquely identifies it, and so we're going to just call it first. I can pre-populate a value if I want. I'm going to choose not to. I'm just going to leave it blank. And I'm going to give it a size. And I want them to be somewhat equal, so I'm going to set them all to 50. And input is an empty tag, so I need a slash at the end. And now that I have this, I can just copy it and paste it a couple of times. And change this to last name. And change the unique identifier to last. And I can set email. And change this unique name to email. And I'm going to choose gender. And now my input's going to change a little bit. It's not an input box anymore. It's going to be radio buttons. Radio buttons are done with select, and the unique name for them is going to be gender. So that's my control, and then the options are going to be male. And female. All right, let's take a look and see how my form looks. So I'll save it up, and then I'm going to just run on server. And if it prompts you to restart, just restart. It means there's been some changes. The project's new, whatever, and it just needs to restart the server. Not a big deal. Looks good. If I fill in the information, oh, there's no submit button. Need to go back and add a submit button. So outside of the table here, so I'm inside the form, but outside the table. My input, I'm going to do a reset button. And I have to give it a unique name, and the unique name is going to be clear. Value is what appears on the button. And then I'm going to have a second one of those. Only this one is going to be submit. So I have buttons, the two different types, reset and submit. They have values, so this is what appears on the button, clear and submit with capital first letters, and then their names that uniquely identify them. Their name is clear and their name is submit. So now let's save this up and see what our page looks like. There's my buttons. I thought this was going to be a radio button, but it's a drop-down box, so I've typed in the wrong thing here. Hang on. So I've spent a couple minutes cleaning up my form here. I have my first name, last name, email address. Those are all still just text boxes. This is where I was having my problem. And it was just all my errors. So I went to gender. I wanted those to be radio buttons. Radio buttons in HTML are the input type radio. The name is gender. For every radio button in this grouping, they will have the same name. And then they will have different values. So the value for male is male, and then I have to specify the text to display. And then the value for the female is female, and I just put out the text to display. So now, no matter which one of these are chosen, this grouping is called gender, but they have different values. Then I did a drop-down box for where were you born. So select is the drop-down box. The unique name for this drop-down box is state. Here are the options that the user sees. So initially, it comes up with the first option, choose a state. And the value for that is blank. Actually, let's make it null. And then if they choose Iowa, the value is IA, etc. And outside of the table, but inside of the form, I have the submit and the reset buttons. So when I save this all up and I look at it, it looks like this. If I enter my information, I can submit it. Nothing happens because that form is going to post to results.jsp, but it's not there. And the clear button works. So now let's work on results.jsp and get it going. So I'm going to add a new JSP file, call it results. And I'm going to display this information out in a table. And I'm not going to use table header or table footer, but I will use table body. And inside of there, I'm going to have the rows. Indentation is very important. It helps us keep track of where we are. And then inside of the rows, I'm going to have two columns. In that first column will be the label of what I'm seeing. And I'll leave the second column blank for right now. Let me fill this out. And after I've got my table, the start of my table here, I've got all my labels. I'm going to put a border around the table. We would probably do this in CSS, but I'm going to hack it in here quickly. Then if we view it, now I'll have to put in the specific name because it's not index. And I can see that there's the first column is filled in, but the second column is blank. So now I need to go get all of this information that's being passed from index and place it into results. I'm going to key in on these name attributes here. Those will be passed from index to results as part of the query string. So in results, I need to pick those up. To pick them up, I'm going to use Java. So I'm going to get up here, put my Java between my head and body again. And I need to create a variable to hold this information. So it's just a string variable. I'm choosing first name. I'm going to populate it with the request, get parameter, And the argument that I expect to come over first is going to be the first name. And again, this, oops, I need my semicolon. This is this. So the name comes first and then the value. So I've got that. Let me fill it in for my other information I expect. So coming from index into results, I expect first, last, email, gender, and state. First, last, email, gender, and state. So this page will load up. When it loads up, it will get that parameters from the GET request. It'll look for these, and whatever is in this first and last, it'll put them in those variables. And now we can use those variables in our table. So now that the variables are populated, we just want to get them back out. We just need a Java expression. Email address, sorry. Okay, everything is saved up. Let's test it. And there it is. It's passing from one page to the other. When it comes into the results, the query string is on there, and so it looks for those details, captures them into variables, and then uses them, writes them back out. So later we'll figure out how to use these to add them to databases and things like that. But right now we're just looking for that simple functionality of passing between. We're looking at the notion of mixing HTML and JSP. And using Java and all of the features that we get with that. Now, one last thing I do want to show you. So if I just load up results with nothing else, everything is blank. If I wanted to see how this was working, I can pass the query string myself. So I separate the page from the query string with a question mark, and then I can pass first equals Mike. And now I can see that this page, when it loads, it looks for first is equal to Mike and puts Mike in the variable, and then dumps the variable out here. Multiple variables are separated with the ampersand or the and sign. So it's page. The query string starts with a question mark, then it passes the object and the value, the object and the value, And here we're actually modifying and options that aren't even available to us. We can pass those in.